time is 7:30, and our main story this morning is the ongoing uncertainty over the future of that Birmingham to Manchester leg of the HS2 railway line, as government ministers refuse again to deny the rumours that it's about to be axed.
Who will help us clear this confusion up?
One person who can end that uncertainty is the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
Really?
Who joins us now from his party conference in Manchester. Morning to you, Mr Sunak. This is your first live breakfast TV interview since becoming Prime Minister. You've made it to Manchester. Will HS2 do the same?
Now, to save you all the pain of having to listen to Rishi's tactics of diverting the conversation to other subjects, anytime he starts going off the rails, pun intended, and stops talking about HS2, I've increased the speed of the interview by 50%.
Well, morning Sally, morning John. Thanks so much for having me. No, it's great to be here in Manchester kicking off our conference. Now, look, I know there's a lot of speculation on HS2. All I'd say is that the way I approach this job, I take a look at the facts, I take my time to get the decision right on behalf of the country, whatever it might be, and that's what I'll do with this as I do with everything else. And as you saw with my recent decision on net zero, when I make a decision that I think is important, of course I go and explain that to everyone, explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I thought it was right to change direction there, different long-term decision, but will save people money, and if that happens and is necessary, of course that's what I'll do.
What people watching this programme really like is when politicians answer questions. I'm going to ask you a very specific question. Yesterday, the Conservative Mayor, Andy Street, said, you must not give up on HS2. Have you given up?
Absolutely not. We've got spades on the ground on HS2 as we speak, and we're getting on and delivering it. But it's not the only thing we're doing
to help spread opportunity and level up around the country. Actually, just at this conference on Sunday, we announced that we were going to back 55 towns across the country with £1 billion in long-term funding, putting local people in charge so that they can focus on their priorities, like better high streets, community properties that they want to protect, and better security in their areas. And that's, again, an example of the long-term decision we're taking. You have to remember that far more people live in towns than live in cities that often get a lot of attention. I wanted to correct that and make sure people living in our towns everywhere know that they've got the backing of this government, together with the funding, to make sure that they can make the change that they want to see.
I'll tell you again, people watching this programme really like it when politicians answer questions. What is the situation with HS2 coming all the way to Manchester?
Correct, Sally, I know you want to keep asking. I know there's lots of speculation, but all I can say is I'm not going to be forced into a premature decision because it's good for someone's TV programme. What I want to do is make the right decision for the country. This is an enormous amount of people's money, taxpayers' money, everybody watching, billions and billions of pounds. We shouldn't be rushed into things like that. What people would expect from me is to take the time, to go over it properly and make sure we make the right long-term decision for the country. That's what I'm interested in doing.
I think that's what politicians should be doing. I think that's what the country wants to see. People who make the right long-term decision, don't take the easy way out, don't chase the headline, and that's what I did with net zero. I took the time to look at the facts, see what was happening, and then I decided that the approach we had in place wasn't right. It was going to cost lots of your viewers £5, £10, £15,000 to meet targets and we didn't need to do those things to meet those targets, which are world-leading. I didn't think that approach was right. I set out a new change. I answered lots of questions on why, and I appreciate, look, got a lot of criticism for that decision, but I think that's the right long-term decision for the country. It's going to save your viewers thousands of pounds, and we're still going to hit our net zero targets, and they're still world leading.
Prime Minister, we're really short of time. I know we haven't got you for very long, so I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to talk about decision making. Whatever decision you have made on HS2, whatever day that's going to come, you, I am sure, know what's going to happen. But the conversation around it has dominated this party conference. It's been a huge distraction. Whatever decision you are about to make, you've got to admit that the handling of the announcement of this decision has been poor.
No, I don't think that. Actually, we're having...
You think it's gone well?
And you look at the announcements. Yeah, I really do. The mood here is
really?
And look at what we've been announcing. First day, well, if I could just explain, but first day we were here, we announced a new plan for motorists, because I want to end this war on motorists. I want to make sure that we recognise most people use their cars to get around, and they need our support. No more blanket 20-mile-an-hour zones. We've cut fuel duty last year. Then we announced our £1 billion to back 55 towns across the country. More people live in towns.
Putting local people in charge of that long-term money, so they can make a difference.
I really do not want to interrupt you.
And just today, and just so I can finish, because you asked how the conference is going, and then just today... we've
made an announcement about Jade's Law. People remember the awful crime.
And, well, you're saying how's the conference going? These are important announcements that are going to make a difference. People will remember that awful crime, and we're going to change that. It shouldn't be the case.
So
we're going to talk about Jade's Law in just a moment.
They still have rights over their children. Oh,
it's
perfect.
Absolutely.
Well, these are all the things that are happening at the conference.
It's a vital announcement. We're going to talk to you about it in just a moment. But I want to tell you this, what Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, said. These things, talking about HS2, will have massive implications for people in the north for the rest of this century. People in the north had a significant impact on whether your party got into power at the last general election. How are you going to make people in the north trust you if that railway line doesn't come to the north and the great cities of the north are then not linked?
Well, look, I'm a Northern MP, right? When I'm lucky enough to go home from London, I get to go home to North Yorkshire. As Chancellor, I created free ports across the north, including in Teesside, which is now attracting billions of pounds of investment and jobs. I put the Treasury, the most powerful part of government, in Darlington. That's my commitment to the north, and just on Sunday at this conference, we announced £1 billion in long-term funding, including for dozens of towns across the north and the Midlands. They're going to get £20 million each. Local people are going to be put in control of that money. They're going to be able to figure out how to use it to best help their community, whether that's the high street, whether that's improving safety, whether that's restoring civic buildings. That's an example of us backing people in the Midlands and the north. And when it comes to families across the Midlands and the north, I want to make sure that I save them money. That's why I took a new change of approach
On net zero, which is going to save families across the north.
As you've
5,
explained,
10,
yeah.
15,000
But Prime
pounds.
Minister,
these are all things we're doing.
When you took over last year, you told us the end of chaos. You were going to be in control. It was all going to be calm and managed properly. But a lot of your MPs feel you have lost control over HS2, that you might want to talk about crime and justice today, but all anybody at the conference is talking about is the fact that you haven't announced a decision on HS2. And they would say that this is a distraction, even a mess of your own making.
Well, I can tell you, because I'm at the conference, talking to all my MPs and everyone else, that's not what they're talking about.
What they're talking about is our approach to net zero, which is saving their constituents 5, 10 or 15,000 pounds. An example of me making a long-term decision for the country, even when it's not easy, even when I'm getting criticism, but because I believe it's the right thing to do for families. They're talking about our backing of 55 towns across the country with long-term funding to help them change the destination of what's happening around them. They're talking about what we're doing today on Jade's Law. These are all the things that people are talking about. And you talk about bringing calm. You're right. When I got this job, it wasn't easy. But I'm really pleased since then we've made progress. Inflation now coming down properly.
Click here for Rishi Sunak's Levelling Up update.